My apologies for, being outside. I was under the impression we are running late by 15-20 minutes, but that's been covered. That's good. And thank you for this very interesting session, BW, because MSMEs is a subject that is, very close to my heart. I've done a lot of work in the MSME space. And then we have Puja over here from Manipal. So Puja, welcome on this
Thank you so much.
two-way discussion on MSMEs. So you are all aware, I hope, how MSMEs are classified. So micro, small, medium enterprises, right? As per the last report, I think it was released sometime in 2016, 2017, and those are the numbers that I quote. There are officially 63.5 million MSMEs, close to 64 million. Some say now we have crossed 70 million, some say we have crossed 100 million, but the last official figure that came from GOI was 63.5 million MSMEs. And who are these MSMEs? These MSMEs are typical micro enterprises. 99.5% MSMEs are micro enterprises, 0.5% are small and medium enterprises. Okay. It's very important to define them because when we talk about access to financial instruments, it becomes extremely critical to understand that the regulator entities today, the financial institutions that are there, banks, NBFCs, Fintechs, and so on, to what extent are their products available for those 99.5% of the micro enterprises which are there. Now, what are these micro enterprises? We are talking about typical, mom and pop shops. We are talking about roadside vendors. We are talking about, sole proprietors who are running a small business. We are talking about entities who may not be paying GST, who may not even be paying tax for that matter, but they are running their business. And India is a country that is actually run by MSMEs. Right? I go to the extent saying that, the next big thing is happening in the MSME space. There are a lot of products that are coming out in the MSME space. There is a lot of innovation that's going on in the MSME space, so on and so forth. So Puja, having said this context, I do understand that Manipal has been doing, certain work when it comes to, products emphasizing on the MSME space. Can you probably, talk about some of the innovations that you are looking at undertaking specifically around MSMEs? And let's, restrict this question from an innovation perspective, and then we can probably go to, furthermore discussion on the MSME space.
Sure. So in terms of innovation, MSMEs, like you rightly said, it could be your next door chai wala who's standing outside your office, or it could even be a small, a lady selling idlis on the road. Those are the kind of people who need money. And remember, these people need money very quickly. They need it, it could be even a day's loan. It could be as simple as needing funds for running their daily, expenses. So those are the kind of people who really need to be brought into the fold of lending, brought into the fold of access to credit. And that's where the innovation is what we are trying to do. We are trying to look at alternate models of underwriting these people, looking at, as simple as their invoices, as simple as their, daily UPI payments kind of products. So these are the things that we are looking at, and through account aggregator model, this has become relatively easier. How we can integrate some of these aspects to underwrite people who are completely out of fold of lending of credit, of ease of credit and access of credit. So that is one thing we are doing. Second, we are heavily into gold loans, and we are doing a lot of tech and innovation into gold loan space, which is usually been dominated by NBFCs, and now the banks are really picking up the heat on that. With gold in India leveraged only to the extent of 7%. Today, only 7% total gold available in India is being pledged for taking loans. It's a very, very easy way. Everybody in the household would have some or the other form of gold, and using that as a very simple asset to be able to underwrite the person without having to go through CIBIL, without having to go through multiple levels of checks that you will end up doing through an unsecured lending. These are the kind of products and innovations we are trying to bring in to bring all the people who are not getting credit today into the fold of credit.
So let's come back to the first point that you said, that MSMEs are often needing a daily credit, and it's very interesting because I come from Mumbai, and if you go to the Dadar fish market, you will realize that there are this businessmen who would take probably 5,000 in the morning and return back, 5,500 in the evening from a private money lender. They would take 10,000 in the morning, return back 11,000 in the evening. And if you go to the rural parts, probably they will take 1,000 rupees in the morning and return back 1,100, 1,200 rupees in the evening. Those are the type of, micro credits or non-regulated credits that are operating in India. Okay, now how do we make credit accessible to these people? And we are talking about micro segment, becomes very critical. You raised a very important, interesting, you used the term scoring, alternate scoring mechanism. And in the morning, on one of the panels, I was discussing about alternate data with the gentleman from CRIF. I feel that yes, alternate data plays a very important role, and that is where the scoring mechanisms can be worked on. Another very interesting aspect that I have tried, Puja, is also giving credit, an unsecured credit to an MSME, starting with a low number, going to a high number, but converting the repayment into a EDI format, a equated daily installment instead of a equated monthly installment. Then what happens is the stress does not come. Correct. And when we made this product live, it was interesting to see that, even the larger MSMEs or the, not the micro but the small enterprises like restaurants for that matter, they loved the product, okay. So they took loans from us and it was a short-term 3-month loan. But the repayment, because it was happening on a daily basis, the restaurant owner used to tell me that, I feel that मेरा तो एक table कम गया है, today one less table served, because that is the repayment that has gone in. And another guy said, we sold 4 bottles of beer less, because that's the repayment that is gone. And fantastic thought process. And when we put it into context of, a grocery store, he would say, okay, 2 customers less walk in, that's fine, no problem. But, my repayment is going. And again, how the repayment is going, no e-NACH, no UPI, collect nothing, there is a QR code. He suo moto scans it and makes the payment. Absolutely. It is as simple as that. So, and coming to your second point now, and that is something that is very interesting, and let's, have a very candid discussion on that, the gold loan aspect that you said. I believe that, every person in India holds gold to certain extent or aspires to hold gold, right? If there is any event, we will go and buy gold. If there is any festival, we'll go and buy buy gold. Even if we have the money, if we don't have the money, we, for certain events, we will take loans and buy gold, right? And what you are saying is the reverse of it, that, these MSMEs that are there, spread across the length and breadth of, 19,000 pin codes in the country, probably, gold is a very good asset class, which they can leverage upon, probably to fund their working capital, if not anything else, because working capital is what you are looking at doing it, right?
Absolutely.
But then, Puja, tell me one thing. Gold is a very, physical product, okay? While, yes, there is gold ETFs and digital gold available through APIs also, it's a very physical product. Now, when we talk about, say, in Maharashtra, Parbani, or, Nalanda in Bihar, and I have a MSME, I have a merchant over there who wants to go for this gold loan product, okay? And there is no branch of a bank or a Muthoot gold or a Manappuram gold available or a IIFL gold available there. How can we, service that requirement?
Yeah, that's where the roles of some of the fintechs come into picture like us. We are not just digital, we are phygital. So what we do is we do assisted gold loan journeys. And it's very interesting to note, Vaibhav, that, the moment we do a little session on how gold is still with you, and it's not really, typically you have a lot of emotion around pledging gold. And still a lot of people, even very educated people, feel that gold, oh my God, I'm pledging my gold, it's a stigma on me, it's a stigma on my, family. But the moment you realize the gold is still lying in the locker, all the time not wearing your gold, it's still lying in your locker. That locker is just changing from your home locker to your bank locker or to your nearest branch locker, wherever it is available. Now that is the concept. The moment it is told to anyone who, say for example in a Parbani or a Nalanda wants to avail a loan, they open up to the fact that, okay, gold loan I can take. They don't want to be seen taking gold loan. So that's when the physical reach of reaching people in their houses, doing doorstep gold loan kind of a model, which is what we innovated on, comes into picture, where you go to the home of a person, you assess his gold, you just give him the security that your gold is going to an XYZ bank or a lender and not necessarily only coming to Manipal. that is a kind of comfort which brings in a lot of value in disrupting this space where people do not know how to take a gold loan. I think I have to go to a bank, I have to go through paperwork, I have to carry my gold, it's such a stigma. So all of these things gets washed off when we innovate in concepts like doorstep-led gold loan lending in some of these smaller places. And hence innovation, not just in lending and fintech, there should be innovation in trying to educate such segment, the kind of digital reach, the kind of financial reach that they can get. Very, very critical to breaking the ice on some of these newer asset classes which are coming now into the fold of the economy.
One follow-up question to that, Puja. Gold ornaments, there is a certain thing attached to it, okay, emotion attached to it, because this was done during marriage, this was done during, this festival, or, something is attached to it, right? We create ornaments on certain important occasions of life. When that ornament gets pledged, okay, how do you assess, evaluate that this is the ornament going in, this is the quality of the gold, it is 23 carat, 22 carat, 20 carat. At the time of returning back when the loan is getting paid, it is the same thing. Is there any innovation happening in that space?
So yes, we are trying to look at that innovation while there are some of these expensive devices which are available which can assess the quality of the gold and not just the assessor who's rubbing the gold and putting certain acid on it and trying to check the gold purity. That is a space which is a lot white space, I would say, Vaibhav, and there is a lot of innovation required at low cost assessment and standardization of assessment of the gold, which has been a pain point for this industry. There have been instances where some of these NBFCs have been pulled up by RBI for not assessing the gold correctly at the time of taking the gold versus at the time of giving the gold. They were doing a lot of miscalculations. So that is still a white space, I would say, and that is where some of these innovative things that we are trying to do, we are trying to bring in a concept of digitally assessing and standardizing gold loan and using AI, which has been the favorite topic today, on how we can start to classify different ornaments, different stamped ornaments into different kinds of gold categories, score every ornament and give that scoring to the banks, and they utilizing it rather than having a physical assessor, you versus me, we may assess the gold very differently. So those are the different models that we are looking at, how we can bring in those innovation and at a low cost, so that ultimately the gold is lying with Bharat, not just India. And that's where we need to reach. And hence these models are very, very critical for our growth in this segment.
Amazing. So there is, a couple of things that I will share of what, I'm trying to do in one of my fintechs. So I also run a fintech known as Eclavio.ai. There we are, so one is the gold ETF that we are trying to do. It's specifically targeting MSMEs, all these micro enterprises. So we have close to around 100K captive user base. And these micro entrepreneurs, they are happy earning, 15, 17, 18K per month. So there we are trying to say that, we need you to invest every day 50 rupees. With us, and the moment you invest that gets into an investment, and it keeps on growing, and against that at the end of the month we give them a working capital in a percentage of the investment they have made. Similarly, there are some plans that we are trying to bring in where you are trying to do gold, we are trying to do LAP. So when we do LAP, and other than gold, the most important thing that we have is property. So every self-made entrepreneur will have at least one property, even if small, whether it's his shop or whether it's his home which is there, okay. And he would have, typical Indians that we would have paid it off in, first 10 years at least of availing the loan. Most of us in the first 5 years itself, 5-7 years. So, use that. It's a good asset class. Use it. Try to mortgage it and then use that as a working capital only, borrow to the extent that you require today. Not because, your house is worth 15 lakhs and you are getting a micro LAP of maybe 10-12 lakhs. Don't take everything as a personal loan, Let it be there as a, let's say, overdraft limit, and then you keep on withdrawing to the extent that you want and use only that much and pay interest only on that much. So that is something that we are trying to do in Eclavio.ai. And I'm hoping that, that also picks up steam. But again, let's come back to these MSMEs and let's stick to the digital credit and beyond.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more on the assessment of these MSMEs when it comes to, deciding on the type of or the quantum of credit that they should be getting. While secured products are there, it's very difficult to sell secure products because secure products come with a factor known as trust. And in India, the trust factor word is only brought in by banks. So no matter how much Eklavya, Tableturn or a Manipal tries to do that, when the customer sees us, he's like, पीछे कौन है मतलब, is it a SBI, is it a PNB, is it ICICI, right? So that is where probably also your model of being a BC of the bank that we were talking earlier works. But let's come back to the, availing the, deciding on the assessment. I think somewhere it is also critical that these MSMEs are brought into the formal fold of assessment, wherein while majority of them are -1 on the bureau credit, which is new to credit.
Correct.
Some mechanism needs to be brought in so that even if they take us some kind of a loan and, or they, to bring them into the formal, this thing, so they have a bureau score. I am sure the moment they have a bureau score, there will be a plethora of financial institutions ready to give them credit.
Absolutely. So, Vaibhav, I'm waiting for ULI to become really democratized. I mean, ULI to become UPI of credit. And that's when the things will change for us as a country, because while there are multiple sets of data available on a particular consumer, but they're not unified in any fashion, right? I mean, so if I have to underwrite a customer, I still have to depend on certain models which may give me, only say 5 parameters or 2 parameters, and it depends upon the underwriter to underwriter. But bringing in, so we have now a lot of information available about every consumer in this country. We have, monthly 9 billion UPI transactions are happening. We have Aadhars linked. We have, Jandhan, 500 million Jandhan accounts with 20 billion worth of deposits lying in them. So all this sort of information, digital land records, to, all of these information is available. However, the moment you bring it together in a UPI kind of an environment, which is ULI, which is Unified Lending Interface, which government the RBI had tried to launch in 23, and they're now trying to look at how they can democratize it, will bring in that real difference in how the MSMEs are underwritten. But till then, that challenge of bringing them to formal fold will remain unless there are some very significant innovations that happen in the way the underwriting models are today being produced, today being assessed. So that will remain a challenge. Yeah.
See, Puja, one of the most interesting underwriting model has been UPI. And I believe, while most of us believe that UPI is a payment model, I strongly believe that UPI is an underwriting model when it comes to MSMEs. Because every shopkeeper who has a UPI QR code has a data of the money that has come in via the UPI, the receivables data, which has acted as a very key factor for underwriting. And the fintech which actually put the UPI QR there was the fintech that actually ended up giving him some kind of his first credit in some form factor. Okay, so whether it was a Paytm, whether it was a Bharat Pay, whether it was a Google Pay, whether it is a Phone Pay, okay, or whether it is a bank, the UPI QR codes acted as, a very strong underwriting mechanism, alternate data mechanism, and things have started building on that. And that brings me, probably because, the timer is clicking in our face, it brings me to the last segment where, I think ecosystem partnerships, Puja, also play a very critical role, because regulated entities either do not have the wherewithal, bandwidth to reach the last mile, okay, their focus is on, the cream, the larger entities, corporates, governments, HNIs, so on. That's where I feel the ecosystem partnerships do have an important role to play, banks, NBFCs, and last mile fintechs. And you specifically mentioned fintech, and you are seeing Manipal solutions as a fintech into this space. So that's very interesting. So your closing thoughts on the ecosystem partnership and why it is critical for this?
Yeah. So while consumers want to trust banks, the banks got to trust the fintechs and NBFCs, and that is how this ecosystem can grow. Fintechs and NBFCs are the ones who are agile, who are fast, who are innovative, who have the ability to reach. And typically, you would see that small ticket loans or loans for the segments that are not served by the banks are the ones which are served by the NBFCs and fintechs. But that's where the entire ecosystem play has to come into picture, where banks and the fintechs and the NBFCs, through co-lending kind of models, through models which are far more trusting for that NBFC and fintech, that trust comes in from the banks and they further carry it forward to the consumers, is when this ecosystem will be able to drive the change. And so very recently RBI has come up with draft guidelines on the co-lending model. Some of these are very strict, some of these are good for the economy, but the whole ecosystem has to work together. Like I said, banks have to trust the fintechs and fintechs have to get the trust of the consumers.
Very well said, Puja. And, just my 2 cents on this. I remember the times when, we used to get FLDG rates from our partner NBFCs for, 16%. And the lending used to happen at 46% to the last mile MSME. And then RBI came out with, circulars and guidelines. And they told the NBFCs that the last mile rate should not cross 36. And I think now the latest one has brought it down to 33%.
Correct.
So the market has actually evolved, even the MSME space. Okay, and the FLDG rates are also coming down. There are small finance banks who are ready to give FLDGs at 12%, 13%, 14%, wherein fintechs can then further leverage that and lend it at at a 30, 33% kind of a thing. So it's extremely interesting the way this entire thing is panning out.
Right.
So, but I think time's up, so we are going to wrap it up. But again, closing remarks: 63.5 million MSMEs in the country, tremendous demand. There is a huge scope of supply over there because this is the underserved and the unserved market of India. So
no, absolutely, it's a huge opportunity, and it's the onus is on us, whether it fintechs, whether NBFCs, or whether banks, to bring these people into the fold of the economy in organized credit. And so we are working very heavily on that innovation. We are not asking them, we are not asking the consumer to come and take credit to us. We are trying to do innovation to take credit to the consumer, and that's how the Bharat will evolve. So thank you everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Puja. Thank you, everyone.